It is Hump Day. Welcome to the Roundtable. We got the full cast on tonight, and at some point during the show, Ken Rashad is going to tell us all about his journey to see the Babyface Edmonds World Tour in Las Vegas. Is that right, Ken Rashad?
Well, it's not exactly a world tour. It's actually a residency, but it's still Babyface. Doesn't matter.
Still greatness.
Okay.
It is.
Ken might blast out a tune or two from the show.
Whatever you want, it's all right with me. 'Cause you got that whip up here. Whip it on me. All right, go ahead, man.
That is a great
what they
Babyface
want or don't want. So yeah, tonight we got a packed show because it was a busy Wednesday. All the news broke on Wednesday, from football to basketball to even gymnastics. We don't have time for everything, but we will have time to acknowledge the blockbuster move from DeShon Jackson by hiring Coach Bro Sweets, aka Clinton Portis, to be his running backs coach at Delaware State. And I got a funny feeling Chris Stevens got a lot to say about this. So Chris, we thought on Monday, after he initially released his roster of coaches, that was it. Come to find out 2 days later, no, he got a big name. Take that, Coach Prime. You got Marshall Faulk respond back with Clinton Portis, also All-Pro running back. So Chris Stevens, what do you make of this move by DeShon Jackson?
This might be the first one that I have honest questions about, because while Clinton Portis is make no mistake about it, the dude rushed for almost 10,000 yards in only 9 seasons. I mean, he has 4 1,500-yard seasons to his credit, so he knows a little bit about running the football. Not going to take that away from him. But number one, this is his first official coaching job at any level. The previous guys that were on the staff had at least coached somewhere before. This Clinton Portis is the only one without any coaching experience. Number one. Number two, our good friend Karan Phillips, who previously appeared on this podcast when Morehouse was thinking about hiring Hugh Jackson, quote tweeted our post about the Portis hiring with a screenshot of the fact that Mr. Portis served house arrest time for defrauding the NFL, retirement fund. So I'm not going to jump too much on that, but I will say that Ken Rashad did bring this up when Mike Vick and DeShon were hired, is that that it should be a concern that we're not holding these celebrity coaches to the same standards that we would, any other aspiring college coach that want to come into our ranks. And I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm not going to take the respectability approach and say that Clinton Portis is a irredeemable criminal, because I don't know the dude from Adam. I just know that when I lived in the Maryland area, he was one of the most unique characters ever. Shouts out to Southeast Jerome. But it just doesn't curl over. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he comes in, coaches the running backs up like he's supposed to, and doesn't lead to any more trouble. But it's just so much. I mean, there's his alter egos, that conviction. Never forget, this dude once said that he didn't think dogfighting was a crime when Michael Vick was under fire for all of that. So, I mean, this is a dude with some interesting views, and it's very interesting that in the business of coaching, where you're molding and shaping young minds, you have somebody of that kind of sort of, I guess we'll call free thinkership. But it's the one hire in this entire process that just kind of makes me scratch my head.
I will say this though, Chris, the bar is extremely low right now for someone with a background like Clinton Portis to get a high-level job. Just take, for instance, the guy who's in the White House right now.
Fair point. Very fair
point. Wow. That was brilliant. That was brilliant.
I got to bang every once in a while, Rashad,
That was brilliant.
As our resident narcissist, Ken Rashad, what do you make of this hiring by DeShon Jackson to bring along Clinton Portis, who may or may not be a criminal element in the program?
Well, I'm not surprised, but I will simply say this, and I don't want to necessarily get too far off topic, but I will say that what we're witnessing right now is kind of it just goes for me. And you can take this as you can take this as a criticism, or you can take this constructively, however you want. And I don't mean any ill will by saying it, but all I would just simply say is that once again, HBCU, because of who we are as Black folks, are giving folks chances that nobody else would. We've seen it with Deion Sanders when he couldn't get a job at any of the Power 5 institutions. He had to get that opportunity educationally, as well as to get his degree, as well as to get his head coaching job at Jackson State. We see, regardless of Clinton Portis and his background, that Delaware State, who I'm guessing, they more than had an opportunity to say, we're not going to do that, because we all know what Grambling did to Art Browse. It was like, you can't bring him on. We are willing to give our own chances that most institutions would not. And there's a part of me that thinks that if for whatever reason things work out and Clinton Portis ends up doing a hell of a job as running backs coach, this could very well mean more opportunities for him down the line, provided that things work out. So I'm all for second chances. Don't get me wrong. And NFL players, man, they're young, and but as you grow, hopefully you mature, and you as you get older, you realize sometimes your crazy ways, and you grow out of that stuff. And I'm inclined to believe that Clinton Portis is a much better person now than he was as an NFL player, because he knows a little bit more now. And so this move could very well be the opportunity that he needs, and who knows what might lead from as a result of him getting this opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't hurt. I mean, a guy that almost had 10,000 yards rushing in the NFL, going to coach of running backs. I mean, who better else can get to fill that job? But all those concerns you mentioned aside, like, I don't think Clinton Portis is going to blow this or be a negative stain on Delaware State. I think he wants to prove himself.
You don't think he's going to do what?
Be a negative stain on Delaware State.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
In terms of like off the field stuff, I don't think it's going to happen with him. I think he wants to prove himself. He's back in the game of football. No coaching experience though, which has kind of been the trend so far with some of these high-profile hires. But everybody's experimenting. Everybody wants to go outside of the box and hope they can hit lightning in the bottle. So we'll see how it goes from that standpoint. Jared Hoffman, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the thing I'm curious about is the kind of influence he's going to have on the players off the field. You know what I mean? It's funny. I think the influence he can be off the field for the guys could be important, with the asterisk that he's learned from his past transgressions. Because you can go through past transgressions and be an asset to the youth community should you learn from your past mistakes and lean the players that he's coaching in the right direction. Like, obviously he has the talent, whether or not that translates into coaching, because we've seen guys who are immensely talented on the field that it didn't translate to coaching. It's easier to when you're doing it yourself, but when you're expecting people to do things the way that you used to do it, when they don't have a tenth of your talent, how does that translate? But I'm more interested in the kind of influence he can have off the field for these gentlemen. Sorry, I thought I heard an echo.
My bad.
Hey, it's live TV. It is what it is. Well, not live TV, but whatever. Anyway,
we are live though. We are live.
Yeah, we are live. Anyway, so yeah, I'm curious the kind of influence he can have on them off. I'm curious how all of these guys. Michael Vick has had his fair share of issues off the field. We're not going to go into that. He's paid his debt to society. There's no need to continue to hold that against him. Why am I bringing up LaShawn McCoy?
Please don't.
DeShon Jackson.
The next Howard University football coach, DeShon McCoy.
DeShon Jackson has had his, fair share of issues off the field. And again, no need to bring that stuff up. But these guys all have knowledge that could be valuable to the players that they are coaching. Whether or not those guys take it in and are able to apply it to their lives remain to be seen. but I'm more looking forward to the kind of influence they can have on them off the field rather than they can on the field.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I think one of the things that DeShon Jackson said in this press conference when he was first hired was that he wanted to be a positive influence on his players off the field. Obviously, the football stuff will take care of itself, but he wants to be a nurturer to these guys, even though in a sense, he's kind of like a young man himself. He's not even 40 years old yet and still young in the coaching game himself. But I think if he's really serious about that, then those actions will back up those words. I don't have any concerns about that in that regard. We talked about it on Monday, me and Chris, about the coaching staff he put around him. A lot of veteran guys. He didn't just like hire a bunch of his boys that didn't have very much coaching experience. He really surrounded himself with a lot of guys who are seasoned, who kind of done this before. And so I think Clinton Portis is only a welcome addition to what he already has in place right now.
Chris, I am curious to know, and if you guys talked about this previously, forgive me because I wasn't here, obviously, but given what we've learned now about this coaching staff, what realistically can we expect from Delaware State football come the fall?
Well, honestly, I think it was Adrian Crook in the chat on Monday that said that 2-9 is the baseline because, and I said in response, well, the team has won one game each of the last 2 years. I mean, it's pretty much rock bottom at this point. There's no place else to go but up. How far up is in that first year, honestly, depends on how they approach this schedule, which we're going to talk about in a minute because they released the schedule today as well. But I would think that I said it on Monday that I felt like 5 and 6 was fair. And I don't know if I'm going to back off of that just yet, especially considering what's on the schedule at this point in time. Like I see some teams that could be had, and there it is. So it really depends on how this level of talent coalesces, how the coaching staff gets them, if they can get the most out of these guys, and just how they hit the field. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, the schedule was released today.
Before we talk about the schedule, I'm in a good mood. Okay. For those of you who are watching this live right now, I'm in a good mood and I'm willing to give away some free gear. All you need to do, if you are watching, go to HBCUsports.com and subscribe to the newsletter. And I'll be able to monitor this in real time. You subscribe to the newsletter between now and the end of the show. And I am going to give someone free gear. You pick whatever you want on the HBCU Sports shops at HBCU Sports. You get one thing on me. All you got to do is register for the newsletter. And depending on how many of you actually register, I might call two. So go to HBCUsports.com, register for the newsletter. I'll monitor to see who registers, and someone's going to get some free gear. All right, Chris. Kendrick, go ahead.
It's a rare occasion Kieran Shine is asking for money, but do that and get a free shirt or a hat or a hoodie or something. Courtesy of Kieran Shine. He's paying for it. As you mentioned before, the schedule is out. It don't start off that easy for the DeShon Jackson era. They go to Delaware to start the season before they play Albany. Then they face the fearsome team of the Fighting Jared Hoffmans and the Bowie State Bulldogs next week. Before going to St. Francis.
Is that an L? Is that an L, Jared?
We handed them out.
It's already one loss in the ledger right there.
Allegedly.
Alleged L.
All right.
Like
I see one person's registered. Go ahead.
Podcast leading up to the week of that game. I think so. Then we got road games at St. Francis and at Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart was a playoff team last year in the FCS. Then at Monmouth, and then that game is circled because it's homecoming, Southern Connecticut State.
I hate the homecomings that early.
Yeah, why? That won't be. It's probably a win though.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a win, but it's not against HBCU.
Is it typically that early?
It's usually about middle of the month.
Middle of September. Oh,
No,
October,
second half of October for the most part.
Yeah.
And then comes the bye week. I was undefeated in the bye week. Then the schedule gets hard again. At North Carolina Central versus Norfolk State in what people think will be the game of that weekend. Michael Vick against DeShon Jackson. Then they go to Morgan State and their fearsome defense. Then they finish up versus Howard at home, and also at home the defending MEAC champion South Carolina State Bulldogs. Chris Stevens, how many books you see in that one?
I'm gonna stick with 5. I think they. Sorry, Jared. I think we get Bowie. I think we get. They beat Sacred Heart last year, and they were a terrible team last year when they beat Sacred Heart. So I feel like a much improved Delaware State team beat Sacred Heart again. So that's 2. Monmouth hasn't really been any good at the FCS level, so that's 3. Central Connecticut State homecoming, that's 4. And I think the one MEAC game that we can win is Howard.
Just one?
I honestly, I don't know what Morgan State has coming back on offense. If Morgan State has anything better than what they had on offense last year, I'm not going to call that game a gimme. But I think, I would alternate between Morgan State or Howard or even both. So maybe 6-5 is the 6-6. Excuse me, is a fair ask. People are going to call me crazy, but stranger things.
You're crazy, Chris Stevens.
Man, 6-6. That's coach of the year.
If he does it, then crown him. What did the late?
That's MEAC Hall of Fame right there.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown them. But they are who we thought they were.
Rest in peace to the late great Dennis Green. But if he gets 6-6, then crown him, because that's a winnable schedule. It really depends on how that preseason practice all comes together with these new guys on the staff and all these new players that are coming in. I mean, I feel like the bare minimum is 4-7, 4-8, but 6-6 is a high. And anything after that, then I will probably come on this show with my newly found acoustic guitar and strum the Delaware State fight song, and with a medley of Fly Eagles Fly mixed in.
Now you got to be coded in a room full of turquoise and red. You got to have pom-poms. You got to have a bunch of shirts. You got to have decorative walls. You got to have all of that if they get over 500.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I might even get the Hornet logo cut into my scalp. I ain't got that much hair to grow, but I'll give it a shot. But if that happens, sure. But I feel like 6-6 is a fair ask. Anything below 4-8, I feel like would be a disappointment. But anything between those two is fine with me.
Jared Hoffman, is Chris Stevens crazy?
Not really. No. Delaware and Albany, those are 2 tough draws. You got 2 playoff caliber teams. You know, drawing the big bad Bowie State, man. I feel sorry for DeShon Jackson, man. I don't want him to get embarrassed like that. But hey, you got to roll the dice something. No, I'm just kidding. But St. Francis and Sacred Heart, one of those teams they played very well. What was it, Sacred Heart?
They beat Sacred Heart last year. That was their one win.
Yeah, they beat Sacred Heart. I don't know much about Monmouth football. You know, I remember they had a good run in the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago in basketball, but I don't know anything about their football team. Southern Connecticut State's Division II and a below average Division II team as well, so I'm pretty sure they can beat them. NC Central's had a lot of changes this offseason. Mookie Collier's gone. Wait, not Mookie Collier. Who am I thinking of?
Jamari
Taylor. I'm thinking of Jamari Taylor. Sorry about that. Jamari Taylor's gone. Not sure Walker Harris is still there. I'm pretty sure he is. I don't know. But Joaquin Davis, who I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about in the next segment, is gone. South Carolina State's had their fair share of guys leave. You know, Caden High, who transferred to the Power 4 level. Eric Phoenix is gone. Aaron Smith is gone. So there's some teams in the MEAC that have gone through some changes that are going to be trying to figure things out. You know, will they have it figured out by the time they get to the MEAC portion of their schedule? Time will tell. Okay, Mark Walker Harris is still there. Okay, so we'll see if, you know, they can catch some teams slipping. And as Chris mentioned, Howard has just completely looked they look completely different from what we seen them look like 2 years ago. So who knows if that could potentially be a win for Delaware State, and Morgan State has had some turnover, particularly on their defense. Again, there's a guy on their defensive unit that I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about. Well, not pretty sure, that I know we're going to talk about in an upcoming segment. But yeah, 6 is not unrealistic. And given how Delaware State has looked in recent years, that would be a huge win for DeShon Jackson. And all that's left to do is prove it on the field.
Yeah, Kim Rashad, what are you handicapping DeShon Jackson's first season win-loss record to be based on the schedule you see here?
Well, the first thing I couldn't help but notice, looking at this graphic.
I didn't make that, by the way. That's courtesy of Delaware State.
Courtesy of Delaware State, I know. If Deshaun Walker goes back to LA, someone's going to say, what up, cuz?
Oh, God. Why? Come on, Kim. You from there now. You can't be like that. Why? You cannot be like that, man. You wrong for that.
Oh, my gosh.
The fact that I looked at the picture as he said that, Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
This is what I have to deal with as a Delaware State alum. I mean,
a friend walk when he heads out to the field for the first time.
A friend of mine asked me that in a text as soon as we announced that he got hired by Delaware State. I'm like, really, dude? Really?
I don't know what to say.
The question was, how many wins do you see for Delaware State on the schedule outside of
all right. All right. I don't see 6 wins. I'm just be honest with you. I don't see 6 wins. I do see a potential for maybe a 1 MEAC upset, but I'm gonna tell you now. I believe there's something to be said for, and look, unless obviously that's why they play the game. But I do believe the inexperience at coaching is going to be somewhat problematic. And I think 6-6, as optimistic as they may sound, Chris, and I understand why you might think that, considering where they were in prior years. I say maybe 3 games, three, possibly 4, but I don't see 6 wins. And I think most of those wins are going to come earlier in the season, to the extent that folks may be feeling pretty good about the prospects of what could happen down the way. But was it Southern Connecticut State, Central Connecticut State, or whatever? What?
Northeast 10 conference in Division II.
Yeah. So I'm saying they may be fortunate enough to get a couple. I see 2 to 3 wins. I think would be not only. I think is realistic, but I think would actually be a modest start considering all the factors that we're looking at right now. But I still say there's something to be said about coaching inexperience when they compete against opposing teams who are likely going to have coaches with experience. I'm just saying they play the games, but I think there's something to be said about that.
And I think it's also important that we note that a lot of the guys that DeShon has brought in, a lot of those guys don't have in-game reps at the college level.
Right.
So we don't know. We've seen plenty of guys who have come from the Power 4 conferences, transfer to HBCUs, and don't get playing time because they're not ready to be on the field. Just because you come from one of these conferences, it looks like a big deal on paper, but it's a whole different ball game when you actually have to step on the field and fight for a playing spot, for a starting spot, or even a role in the rotation. So we don't know what DeShon is going to be like as a coach yet, and we don't know how the players are going to translate into his philosophy on the field. So that goes into the mindset that 6 might be pushing it, but I just don't think it's unrealistic to say that 6 is possible. If I were a betting man, if this were spades, I'd probably say 4 and a possible, but I don't think 6 is unrealistic.
Well, HBC Overdrive saying 6, maybe 7, man. I think look, I'll give Chris Chris is okay to be optimistic. He should be. He can say 6, just like I think Grambling will resume its prominence as a basketball school when it's all said and done. They're going to find some way to win the tournament. So, I'm optimistic. I have the right to be that way. You may not think so. Chris has the right to say, I think Delaware State is going to win about 6 or 7 games. I get that. But I don't see it. I'm just saying. 6, 7, if he plays his card right, that's a lot. But again, if he does, man, that's coach of the year. That's coach of the year.
Now,
if Chris came on here and said 9, I'd be like, all right, Chris, relax. All right, relax.
I was never going to say that. I if you missed Monday's show, I said 25, 26, and then 27, we go into the Celebration Bowl. And Kendrick said, well, are you guys going to have enough fans to go? And I'm like, okay, so let's push it back to 2029. So we can build this fan base up a little bit.
Yeah, will the fans travel for DeShon? Who knows? If the team look like the Showtime Hornets, who knows?
Time will tell.
We don't even know anything about like his style of coaching yet to even know like what they're gonna look like. Now he's made some inroads on the recruiting trail. He got some promising young recruits coming in and some transfers, but we don't know how those guys are gonna mail, and it's pretty difficult to turn around a 1-win team in the season like that. For me, I think I said on Monday 3 or 4 was kind of the high. I'm gonna stick with that 3 or 4. Like anything more than 2 is definitely a win for Delaware State for sure. Anything more than that, coach of the year running right there. I'm saying. Transitioning to our next topic now. Our very
before you do, let me put the call out there again. You guys, I'm giving away some free gear before the end of the show. Go to HBCUsports.com. Sign up for the email newsletter. You register between now and the end of the show. You will be eligible to win something from the HBCU Sports Shop. I will reach out to you. You let me know that one thing, regardless. Doesn't matter how much it costs. The one thing you want, and it's yours for free. All you got to do is register. All right, Chris. I keep saying Chris. Go ahead, Kendrick.
Can I get tickets to the next Babyface concert?
Sure, you can pay for it. It's on Ticketmaster.
No, on you.
No, that's only the missus can do that.
See, man. How you do, our fans? Sorry about that. I apologize on Kim's behalf. But anyway, our very own Chris Stevens talked at length today, exclusively to MEAC Commissioner Sonja Stills about the state of the MEAC. What's interesting to me was this was a day after it was reported that her and the other 3 Black College Conference commissioners petitioned a letter to the Congressional Black Caucus seeking guidance and assistance about NIL and them to take action on the issue of student athletes being identified as employees, because if they are, that means you got to pay them that way. And for a lot of these schools, they can't do that. And if they have to do that, that means a lot of their programs could be in jeopardy. So, Chris, what did you learn from talking to Sonja Stills today?
Well, for one, she's a pleasant conversationalist. I've talked to her before. I did a story before the school year started. But yeah, second time talking to her, she's a bundle of energy. She's fun to talk to. That's number one. Number two, most importantly, it feels like that the HBCU 4 in the NCAA, the commissioners, Sonja Stills, Dr. McClellan, Jackie McWilliams, and Anthony Holloman at SIAC, they are trying to get some control over NIL before it completely goes off the rails. Because for folks that aren't familiar, there is no official national federal NIL rule yet. The House settlement just means that, okay, you can't dock programs for paying kids anymore. And a lot of states are individually scrambling, putting together helter-skelter NIL laws. And as Commissioner still said to me, like, if you're a conference commissioner and you have schools in 4 or 5 different states, it's a nightmare. So they have reached out to the Congressional Black Caucus. She said Lucia McBath, who, of course, was Jordan Davis's mom, who ended up winning a seat in Georgia and getting to D.C., said it's important that y'all get in front of the CBC to explain that explain the realism and the business of athletics to HBCU politicians who may have gone to HBCUs but aren't completely familiar with the sports aspect of HBCUs. So I felt like that was an interesting thing. I also felt like she had some interesting points about how one of the gentlemen we just discussed, DeShon Jackson and Michael Vick signed on Norfolk State, how that could be a beacon for the conference in terms of bringing in not just publicity but new ways of revenue as well. That sounds like she's hopeful that Vic and DeShon will bring in some new eyes and some new advertising dollars, which is always an added plus. And her comments on DEI, I felt, were right on the money. Just how disappointing it is that we were so close to having a president that actually cared about everybody. Now we got a president who just wants to tear everything down. And that includes our institutions. So she said, we've been known to do a lot with a little, but it still concerns her just how quickly things have changed. And she did mention expansion. She said it's part of the MEAC.
I was just about to ask you that. Yeah,
She didn't name any schools in particular. She said it's on the radar, but it's part of their long range strategic program, and that she didn't want to, say too much about it. But she said it's definitely on the radar. As far as new sports, the only two that she chose to mention were men's and women's golf is coming back in 2026, and they are probably getting closer than ever to adding women's flag football. So there was a lot discussed in that, 20, 30 minutes. I had to talk to Commissioner Stills, and it was a great conversation. And you guys can go to HBCUsports.com and read the story in detail, and you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, good job by Chris getting that and getting those answers out of her. I want to ask Ken and Jared this question. I know we often frame discussions in terms of football because football consumes everything, but overall, is the state of the MEAC in a good place right now with Sonja Stills as its leader, or is there still work to be done in terms of like expansion, especially for football, especially for revenue, all those things like that? Starting with Ken.
Well, it could be worse, but I think unless I could be off on this, I think that long term the MEAC has to make some moves. I think they have to add some members. Otherwise, I could be wrong. And Chris, I don't know if she alluded to it. I want to say that in order for them to continue to competing at the Division I level, I think they're going to have to add some additional teams. I think I could be wrong about that, or it may not be, given how they've, because I know they got these. You got a lot of these conferences now that are kind of like coming up with these, these partnerships, like what the OVC did with the Big South and so forth. I don't know if the MEAC is currently involved with that. I think they've got some things. I don't know. I'm not going to sit up and pretend, but I guess my point is that expansion is probably something that the MEAC long term has to do if it's going to remain a viable conference for all of the existing members who are currently, there. Because if you guys remember, there was some time at one point there was that possibility of Howard, contemplating whether or not they wanted to jump ship, and
Delaware State too.
Right. Right. Delaware State with the NEC. Right.
Yeah, Delaware State with the NEC, Howard with the Patriot.
With the Patriot. That's exactly right.
Close. It was so close.
So I think long term, yes, Sonja Stills has to do something. And I'm pretty certain those schools probably know something more than we, they probably know more than we do. But I think long term, she has to. She has to. Otherwise, the MEAC as we know it or as we knew it, it's not going to be around long term.
Yeah, Jared, go ahead.
It's hard to say whether or not the MEAC is in a good state. I'm probably the least qualified to speak on that, quite honestly. But I think that there's signs of optimism for the MEAC. The fact that they're involved in some of the biggest revenue games. The Battle of the Real XU is extremely profitable. No matter what sport Hampton and Howard play against each other, the MEAC SWAC Challenge is mutually beneficial between them and the SWAC. Please don't put that most recent comment up. Please don't. I don't have time to speak on it. I don't want to speak on it. Don't put it.
You mean this one right here? Yes.
Way to
Hey,
go,
man,
Silas. There you go, Silas, my man. Silas coming through. Silas McMorris.
Lord.
Why did I even say something? I should have just let it. I should have just let the comment rock. He probably wasn't going to put it up, but whatever. Anyway, I feel like they're gonna find teams that are realistic that will be willing to join the conference. I don't know how Chicago State's going to turn out. With them adding the football program, or if there are teams at the Division II level, maybe Valdosta State, who said that they'd be willing to join one of our conferences. I don't know, but I'm not the most qualified to speak on it, but I don't think that they're in dire straits.
My
boy he gonna blame it on his kids again, huh?
You gonna blame it on his son. You know it. But if I may, I think the MEAC is just caught in a catch-22 right now. It's probably the worst possible time for them to be thinking about expansion when you think about how quickly 4 teams left. Because it literally was back to back. First it was Hampton, then it was A&T, then it was Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M in 3 consecutive summers: 2018, 2019, 2020. Peace. We out.
Wait a minute. Give me that rundown again. Who'd you say?
It was Hampton left first. Hampton left first in 2018.
Okay.
A&T left in 2019. And that was when people were really scared that Howard was going to jump ship for the Patriot League and that Delaware State was going to the Northeast Conference.
Right.
But then they stayed. And then.
But I was going to say, too, I think before that, it was 2016, 2017, Savannah State left.
Yeah, Savannah State left.
Yeah.
And Winston-Salem State left in the early 2010.
Right. But I'm saying Savannah State was like the first domino.
Yeah, Savannah State was the first domino. Because the MEAC had been hungry for a Georgia presence going way back to when Morris Brown still had athletics.
Right. But that was they just couldn't afford to stay. But
Savannah State couldn't afford to stay, but A&T, Hampton, and the Florida schools just wanted out. And now that the NCAA has made it so that you really have to have a bag, whatever level you're going to move up, it's just not good right now. And there's a point that I think people need to understand is that UMES had football for 70 years. And I'll never forget when I was doing research for a story that is still on HBCUsports.com, if I recall. Their president at the time said this was the fall of 1979. So this was 45 going on 46 years ago. He said that we cannot run a football program at the cost of what it takes and still remain a Division I institution. And did anybody want to guess what the cost of the football program was for UMBS in 1979? Take a guess. Anybody? Throw a number out there.
With inflation?
$100,000.
Just $99,000.
Wow.
It apparently it got so bad for UMES their last year of football that players were sharing shoes. Now, if we're talking about adding football for any institution in $2025 and they couldn't make it in $1979, it's tough. It's tough, but I just don't know what the MEAC is supposed to do because the CIAA, the schools that are in the CIAA have everything that they need at their disposal. They don't need to move up. They don't have to move up. They have championships. They have these built-in natural rivalries that nobody's going to want to give up on. Because I can tell you now, as much as people are begging for Virginia State, people would raise holy hell if they left Virginia Union behind. So it's just it just doesn't seem plausible that any MEAC, any CIAA or SIAC school would be in position to move up because they would be giving up on their rivalries. They would be giving up on playoff opportunities for football. It just doesn't seem solvent at this point. And it's unfortunate, but I don't know what else the MEAC can do other than enter a partnership. But then the Celebration Bowl would probably be very awkward if you get Jackson State versus Monmouth. One of these years that there's a MEAC NEC partnership, and Merrimack versus Florida
Wow.
A&M.
No.
You know, that would be awkward as all get out. And
The
I
folks
just
at
don't,
Disney would not be happy with that one.
man. Imagine the Marching 100 showing up and Long Island, New York, Long Island University is playing Flight of the Bumblebee or something. You know, it just does not seem it's not good. But I mean, I feel like until the MEAC figures out what they're going to do with respect to adding other HBCUs, they're just going to have to hold the fort because the NCAA, the MEAC approved this, the NCAA approved this legislation with the MEAC in mind, is that 6 members is all you need for an FCS conference. Right now, they have 6. So
is it 6?
Yes, it was 6.
They got 6 football playing. Is it 6? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So they're fine for now. But should the NCAA change their mind, and we know that the NCAA is prone to changing their mind, that's where the problems will ensue. But for right now, just got to hold the fort down until some other schools come up with some money and say, "Hey, we'll join you up there in that Division 1." But it's going to be a long time for that to happen.
I don't know why I thought they needed more than 6, but okay.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought they needed 7, but okay, maybe not.
That's my thing and to Silas, that you didn't do anything wrong. It's just a lot of people always say they would love to see Bowie, they would love to see Fayetteville State, they would love to see Virginia State, Virginia Union. The thing is that no, that's not happening. The thing is that the money still has to be there.
Yeah,
it still has to be there at the end of the day. You could look at these teams and say, oh, they're competitive in their conferences. They're competitive when they play against, FCS schools or in basketball, Division I schools. Obviously Bowie is the real HU, so no, I'm just kidding. But like you could say, oh, these schools are competitive when they play against Division I schools, or they're competitive at their level, or they're dominant at their level. They would be a great addition to our conference. Look at how it turned out for Winston-Salem State. They were fine where they were, and they're just fine where they are now. Fayetteville State there's no real need for them to move up. They're doing just fine. Same thing for Virginia State, same thing for Virginia Union, and the same thing for Bowie State. So I can understand
State that moved from the MEAC back down to the SIAC.
Yeah, so it's fine for you to want better for the MEAC. We're all pulling for the MEAC. We're pulling for all of the HBCU conferences, HBCU AC included, even though they don't have football. But the money has to be there, plain and simple. It has to be there, and for a lot of these schools, there's no need for them to go deeper into their pockets and try to make something happen that doesn't really need to happen.
Yeah. I want to bring up Kim Jones's point really quickly. He says the reason no football at UMS because our president at the time was not creative to go at a lower level. We were always small college and not D1. You know what else hurt UMS at the time? Salisbury University. They definitely they took over down there on the Eastern Shore, and it's just hard to get kids to understand that there's 2 really good institutions down there on the Eastern Shore, and they just suffered because of that. So yeah, that's the reason UMS is kind of sort of like caught in the middle, torn in between the two, to quote an old LaToya Luckett song. But
I'm not familiar with the lay of the land. Does Salisbury have a football program?
Salisbury has a very good Division III football program.
Division III, okay.
Yeah, but Salisbury gets all the, they have all the I mean, Salisbury is a private institution, believe it or not, even though they're named after one of the biggest cities on the Eastern Shore. But they're a private institution, but they still have mass amount of donors who donate things like buildings and facilities and all of that stuff. And it's just they literally just stole UMS's thunder. Maryland State at the time, but they stole Maryland State UMS's thunder in a way that I don't think the school has ever really recovered from. That's why when people talk about, why UMS has never made the NCAA tournament at a Division I level, because it's important to note I think they were either a Final Four team in the Division II or the NAIA level. I can't remember which one it was. I know they had Joe Pace, who once upon a time played for the Washington Bullets and won a championship there. But yeah, sorry, going off the deep end. But that's just hard. That Salisbury's emergence just made it hard for UMS to really make a footprint in their backyard. Even though Salisbury really doesn't recruit black kids, it's just still hard for UMES to fight with, Salisbury for resources and funding and things of that nature. So that's part of the problem as well.
Yeah, I'm curious though, like people throwing out Tennessee State to join the MEAC, people throwing out like maybe some Division II schools to join the MEAC, but like, what's the attraction, or I guess we'll say the benefit for those schools to join the MEAC? It's like, is the MEAC an attractive conference to join based on the state it's in right now? I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think it is right now. It's unfortunate, but there's still some work that needs to be done in terms of just making things more palatable for these schools to join. You need more sports offerings. That's why I asked Commissioner Stills about that. And I feel like women's flag football is a good start, but you still need to make sure. I mean, for one, I feel like the MEAC is suffering because there's not a baseball conference anymore. If you guys are not familiar, when A&T left, when Hampton left, and when Central dropped baseball, that left the MEAC with four baseball playing members: Delaware State, UMES, Norfolk State, and Coppin State. So they all went to join the Northeast Conference as associate members. So if you're wondering what happened, that's one thing. MEAC needs to find a way to get some baseball back in their institutions. They need to find a way to add more women's sports. It's a lot that needs to be done, but the more sports you add, the more schools are going to look at that and say, okay, so maybe we can give this a shot. We may not be football and basketball dominant, but we can still do some things in other sports that can still keep our schools, still keep our athletic program afloat. So that's part of it as well. There probably needs to be more sports offerings as well as a concentration on expansion. So we'll see what happens.
Like when the MEAC did have baseball with those four teams, they needed to file a waiver with NCAA to be able to, when the teams make the tournament.
Yep.
Because they can only do that twice, I think, file those waivers.
Otherwise,
they'll either have to expand or go somewhere else.
Yeah, it was 2022. That was the last year they could file the waiver, and that's when the NEC stepped in, Prince Charming to was it Prince Charming that kissed Snow White after she ate the apple? I don't know. I'm kind of rusty. No,
it's Adam and Eve, man.
No wait. Snow White ate a poisoned apple, and the dude came in and kissed her and woke her up. I swear that's how the story went. I think
his fairy tales mixed up, man.
I'm getting them mixed up, but whatever it is, NECs came in and saved the four MEAC schools, gave them a place to play baseball. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, so right now, the SWAC is the only Division I conference that can send a representative to the NCAA tournament as a Black college conference.
Yes,
it's crazy how that works out. Moving on to our next topic, if I can find it. Nope, that's not it. That's not either. That's not it. There we go. Yeah. So this week was the HBCU Combine, where 50 players from various Black colleges were down in New Orleans working out in front of professional scouts, and a lot of players like this one on the screen here, Irv Mulligan, Offensive Player of the Year in the SWAC last year for the Black College National Champions, did tremendously. Others improved their stocks. Some, like Jada Byers, I don't know. His 40 time wasn't that good, but you never know. Redeemed himself in a pro day. Like him, they did not. So we all kind of, at various points, kind of followed the reports coming out of New Orleans. But I want to first read what Mia Berry of Anscape put together. She wrote a story about the players who drew the most attention from NFL scouts. All 32 were there at the Combine. And she listed as best impression, North Carolina Central wide receiver Jaquan Davis. He ran an unofficial 4.43. He measured 6'4", 192 pounds. She said he showed off his athleticism, body control, from position drills. He didn't drop a single pass and earned praise for his route running. The best overall offensive player was Irv Mulligan. He ran a 4.5 in the 40-yard dash. He showed his ability as a pass catcher out of the backfield too. He measured 5'9", 198. He had a great season last year with that state, ran for over 1,000 yards. So he definitely earned himself some extra looks. She also mentioned most likely to get drafted, though Carson Vincent was not there. Alabama A&M's offensive lineman. He was identified as the most likely player to get drafted. as you guys know, like he was at the Senior Bowl earlier this month, and he may get a late round look. He's a giant mammoth offensive lineman, so scouts definitely pay attention to him. She also mentioned Kendall Bowler, FAMU's great defensive back. He ran a 4.6 in the 40. Also, the best defensive player of the day was listed as Robert McDaniel, the safety of Jackson State. He ran a 4.5 in the 40 and hit a vertical jump of 38.5 inches. So, fellas, from what you guys observed or ever come across, who were some of the guys who kind of like made notes or stood out to you during the combine, starting with Jared Hoffman?
We interrupt this program to bring you this special announcement.
Oh, my God.
Guys, somebody's going to win some free gear. Here's your opportunity to go to HBCUsports.com. You will see that little box to sign up for the newsletter. And if you sign up between now and the end of the live show, before the end of the show, you will register and you'll be eligible to get some free gear. I'm in a real good mood right now. Got to see Babyface Valentine's weekend. May not do this next week. I might. But go ahead, register for the newsletter. I'm going to give away some free stuff. You get to choose. I'll email you. You let me know what you want, what size you want. I'll ship it to you free, no cost to you. All you got to do is register for the email newsletter. All right? All right. We continue with the programming.
Okay, as Ken continues his pitch throughout the show, Jesus Christ. Jared Hoffman, your thoughts on the combine and who stood out to you in your estimation?
I think that this has been the best year for offensive talent since they started doing the HBCU Combine and the HBCU Legacy Bowl. You know, seeing guys like Joaquin Davis, guys like Irv Mulligan really make their case for why they should have some undrafted free agent stock or maybe even some late round looks. It's the best that we've seen out of the offensive players. Now, there have been some disappointments. Obviously, Jada Byers didn't have the performance that we expected from him, but he performed very well during the on-field drills, to give him his credit. He performed.
His 40 time was a problem. Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah, his 40 time was a problem, but he was excellent during the on-field drills. And honestly, that matters a lot more than what his 40 time is, because your 40 time don't matter in the grand scheme of things. We've seen some of the fastest players in NFL Combine history turn out to be duds at the NFL level. So your 40 time does not matter. But I think guys like Irv Mulligan and Joaquin Davis really did numbers for their stock. Now they just have to show it in game during the HBCU Legacy Bowl. Robert McDaniel was absolutely fantastic, but somebody who during the HBCU Legacy Bowl practices who has really caught people's eyes is Elijah Williams. Elijah Williams has from what's his face? Steve Weish himself. He has been saying how much he has dominated. HBCU draft HBCU players. They talked about how he has been one of the best performers they've seen since they started doing the HBCU Legacy Bowl. Right? He has really made waves, and don't be surprised to see him get drafted on day 3 of the NFL draft if he continues with this progression. Now, we saw obviously that Carson Benson performed well during the Senior Bowl practices, didn't exactly do great in the Senior Bowl itself, gave up some big sacks in that game, gave up some pressures. But if he is able to translate his practice performance into the game on Saturday, sky's the limit for what could potentially happen for him, whether that be a day 3 draft slot or maybe even a serious consideration for multiple teams into being an undrafted free agent. So Elijah Williams would be my answer for the biggest performer. If we're talking about the combine itself, Irv Mulligan and Joaquin Davis dominated the combine. But since in the HBCU Bowl practice, Legacy Bowl practices, Elijah Williams has been one of the best performers that we've seen in a long time. But it doesn't matter if they don't showcase that in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very promising for a lot of the guys we mentioned. And I asked this on Monday. Ken, you weren't around. You were in Vegas. But do you think this Legacy Bowl and the Combine is it working to get more players opportunities? Because despite the fact the work the NFL has done on its side, despite the fact the work that folks like Doug Williams has done on his end to try to get these guys exposure, the numbers for drafted Black College football players are still low. Do you think it's doing its job to get these guys exposed and get these guys opportunity to be drafted or either assigned after the draft?
Sorry. Man, that's the $90,000 question. And I guess the only logical conclusion I can come up with is that it doesn't hurt. And I recall something that Jared said that made a lot of sense, in which he was steadfast in saying this, and correct me if I'm wrong in saying this. Jared, I think it was like maybe a year or two ago, he talked about just how impactful and how significant the HBCU Legacy Bowl was for some select players, in indicating that it was because of that event that allowed them to get into the league. So while it may not necessarily result in a whole lot of HBCU players getting actually drafted, it does help. Or we've seen where at the very least it's afforded them an opportunity to either sign on as free agents, and in some cases make the final 64-man roster. We've seen this several times. So I'm careful not to make it an HBCU issue, because again, when you put in consideration, there are only a handful of HBCU players who are actually being drafted. When you put those players, depending on whether or not they come from an FCS program or a Division II program, we don't see a whole lot of FCS players being drafted either. So, because watch, someone's going to make, depending on what the final number, we see this every year. And I'll admit, maybe at one point I was guilty of this. But once draft day is completed, 2-3 days, how many days, and all of those rounds have been completed, and we end up getting a very minuscule number of HBCU players, if any at all, someone is going to have stories. They're going to have op-eds about how disingenuous NFL owners are because no HBCU players got drafted. And I will simply say this: you might have a point if you're not getting a whole lot of FCS and Division II teams drafted from PWIs as well. And we have seen the league overall hasn't really drafted a whole lot of FCS players overall in general, regardless whether it be an HBCU or PWI. So be very, very careful about, making this an HBCU issue, because I think in fairness, the league has been kind of consistent or inconsistent with respect to players they get from the Power 5 schools as opposed to players that they get from the FCS and even Division II program, regardless whether HBCU or not. So I'm just simply saying, but Jared has been pretty adamant that the HBCU Legacy Bowl has been beneficial, and I think as long as sponsors obviously continue to see a benefit in investing in it, as long as scouts continue to go and utilize it as an opportunity to find out who some of these players are, then I say, yeah, you go forward. But I just want to, I'm just saying all this to say that I'm all for HBCU players getting the exposure. I'm all for HBCUs getting whatever they get, even though it's a long time coming. A lot of it is a part of the great American guilt trip, when George Floyd, but hey, I'm all for it now, but I mean, it's always been my argument. All of this newfound attention that HBCUs are getting right now is because of that great American guilt trip. Unfortunately, with George Floyd, that's just me. Me and the late Eric Moore made this argument. Well, we're not arguing. We said this behind closed doors all the time. We are experiencing the great American guilt trip.
And the crazy part about it is that guilt trip is just about over.
It's about over. Hey, I was just about to say that. It's just about over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So So,
Yeah,
Go
to
ahead.
go with that point that Ken was saying, like the whole reason why Xavier Smith is in the league right now is because of his performance in the HBCU Legacy Bowl. The whole reason why Brandon Codrington, the whole reason why Emmanuel Wilson, and these are guys that are on 64-man rosters, 53-man rosters. Where did I get 64 from? Anyway, the main reason why those guys are in the league right now is because of not just their intangibles and their measurements and things of that nature, but their performance in the HBCU Legacy Bowl. And as far as guys getting drafted, that's not always important, especially in the NFL level, where some of the greatest players in NFL history are undrafted players. I'm going to read you a list of names. These are all players who were undrafted. Antonio Gates, who just was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Kurt Warner, Hall of Famer. Warren Moon, Hall of Famer. James Harrison, soon to be Hall of Famer. John Randall, Hall of Famer. Priest Holmes, Wes Welker, Adam Vinatieri, so on and so forth. These are all guys who are undrafted players. It's not about where, I get it. It's about getting drafted because that's, if you're drafted in a certain round, that's when you get guaranteed money. Understood. But at the end of the day, we've seen first round draft picks that are flops. Ryan Leaf is one of them.
Knock it off.
Jamarcus Russell is another one. We've seen guys who were first round draft picks that ended up being bust. And we've seen undrafted players become all-time greats. We've seen guys that come from HBCUs that were drafted in later rounds that become number one guys on their depth chart. So it's not about where you go in the draft. It's not about if you're even drafted or you're an undrafted free agent. It's about what you do with the opportunity. And we've seen plenty of guys in the league as of recent who have come from HBCUs make their way onto rosters, whether they were drafted or whether they were undrafted free agents. And they took full advantage of the opportunities, and they are still in the league to this day. Guys like Javon Hargrave, guys like Joshua Williams, guys like Kobe Durant, like I said, Emmanuel Wilson, guys like Brandon Codrington, so on and so forth. We've had plenty of guys who are in the league now. It's not as many as there used to be, but we have guys who are getting it out the mud and working for their opportunity. So could it be better? Absolutely. But these guys have to earn it at the end of the day. Like Ken said, it's not just an HBCU issue, because there's plenty of guys at the FCS level, Division II level, Division III level that were all Americans at their respective levels of football. Even at the FBS level, we've seen it, the Power 5 guys that struggled to get on rosters that were consistent contributors to their teams. So this is not just an HBCU issue. I don't want us to look like whiners and complainers. Well, we see guys that have immense talent at our level, and we say, oh, how are they not on an NFL roster? It's because they're competing against guys at the Power 4 level, at the Group of 5 level, the lower FBS level. They're competing with guys at the FCS level, Division II level, Division III level, NAIA level. They're competing with guys coming from Canada. The NFL is starting to reach out further than just the United States. There was a guy at the Senior Bowl who came from Canada. So there's a lot of competition for these roster spots. And although we watch these guys every day and we notice the talent that they have, there's guys that we may not have even heard of that have talent as well, and they have to compete with those guys. So no, this is not just an HBCU issue. This is a good problem for the NFL to have, that there's a lot of guys competing for these spots, and you just have to have it. And if you don't have it, then you're going to have to find another avenue. It's a good thing that we have the UFL. It's a good thing we have arena leagues. It's a good thing that we have the CFL, because those are ways that you can fight for NFL roster spots. We've seen guys come from the UFL to the NFL. We've seen guys come from the CFL to the NFL. So it's all about your journey. Your journey is particular to you. So if you choose to continue to fight, you could potentially make it to the NFL. You may not, but it's all about how hard you're willing to work for it. And we've seen that some of our guys have been willing to work for it, and it's paid off for them.
Yeah, when those guys got opportunities, like Jared said, they made the most of it. Like Kobe Durant had an interception in the playoffs against that fraud Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, like,
Really, Kendrick?
That fraud.
I don't like Minnesota or Green Bay.
That's that NFC Central, NFC North beef right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go Pack,
Hey,
go.
come on. See
Oh.
now, you about to get kicked off the show now, Jerry. Don't that nonsense.
That was for putting up that comment when I.
And speaking of nonsense, we're gonna transition to our off topic now, where we go off the beaten path on a Wednesday night. And for this week, it's about me. I'm gonna try to prove something to myself on Sunday. As you see, Tiger back in the day,
I
he
ain't
was
seen
real
Tiger
popular.
in years.
He had a track with Drake, the most hated man in North America right now. Yeah, so we got a song entitled "Still Got It," man. So this Sunday, I'm gonna try to prove whether or not I still got it. Today I went to Dick's Sporting Goods in Charlotte, and I picked up some baseball equipment. I got a bat, I got a baseball glove, I got some batting gloves, and I got some bat wrap to help me with my grip. And so I'm gonna go to the local park here in town and try out for an adult league baseball team. I haven't played baseball in since I left college. Hadn't played competitive sports in more than 5 years, but I do work out. I do get active in that way, but competitive sports, no. I really got to stretch my entire body starting like after the show's over until Sunday. So the whole point of this whole spiel here is to ask my friends on the panel here and you guys, what have you tried to prove to yourself that you still got it? It could be something athletic related, it could be singing, it could be dancing, or in Ken Bashad's case, it told us before the show started whether or not he still can Mac. So that's what we're gonna do tonight. That's gonna be our topic. In what ways have you tried to prove yourself you still got it, whatever that it is? Starting with Chris Stevens.
Whew. Well, for those of you who are not familiar, I also, aside from my HBCU sports duties, cover high school basketball here in the state of Delaware. And after games, there's some balls bouncing around, kids shooting the ball. And I've definitely entered that age of like, yo, let me get a shot up. And the last time I got a shot up, I knew I messed up because I was outside the 3-point line. And I can't remember the last time I shot a basketball. I swear to God, it looked good. When it left my hands, I was like, okay. And it just like 2 or 3 feet short. And this kid couldn't have been older than 8 or 9. Came up to me and said, "That's okay, mister. You'll get it the next time. You just got to keep shooting." I'm like,
wow, Jesus.
I'm like, somebody come get your damn kid. But he was right. So starting with this spring, when the weather breaks, I'm going to buy a basketball. I'm going to go to my local playground, and I'm going to do what the trainers teach their kids to do. Make shots from in close until you get comfortable enough. Take a few steps out, start shooting back, because I miss just shooting baskets. I mean, I'm not in basketball for competitiveness. I just love the game. So, but yeah, realizing that I have not shot a basketball long enough that a 3-pointer is an impossible task for me was a bit humbling. So that was how I tried to prove I still got it, and it done got up and left.
I mean, shooting 3-pointers not that hard, Chris.
Nah, this is a high school 3-pointer. This ain't the NBA 3. This is a high school 3-pointer. The high school 3 is right at the top of the key. I mean, it's just like it's borderline. So it's like it's literally 19.
Ain't nothing. High school 3 ain't nothing. You right.
Yeah, it's 19-9, and I was 17-5. So I need to start getting some shots back up. So that's my task for the spring once the weather breaks.
If Joel Embiid can do it, so can you, Chris. So can you. Like I say, Jared Hoffman.
He ain't do it. He ain't doing it.
If Ben Simmons can do it,
now you know he ain't doing it.
Come on, son.
Jared Hoffman, you're up.
Well, I work in youth sports, so I'm always trying to prove that I still got it athletically. Like anytime, like there's coaches that have, when their team finishes practice, they have them do sprints at the end of practice. And I always be like putting my stuff down and be like, hold on, I'm gonna race y'all. Let me see who can beat me. And I always beat them, but I always catch a hammy. Always that hammy be going out. Like I always run just enough that I have enough gas in the tank. But if I gotta take one more step, that hammy go out. So like, and I'm not even that old. I'm only years old. So like, I'm not even that old. So, and by the way, we gotta clear this up right now. I know this is unimportant. My mother is flashing people on FaceTime in the background right now, so that's why I was distracted. But like,
she's what on FaceTime?
She has family members on FaceTime watching me. But like, I gotta get this clear right now. UNC rules. You cannot be UNC if you are under a certain age.
Thank you.
There is no reason for people who are close to my age calling me UNC.
Who calls you UNC? Who calls you UNC?
Like I said, I work in youth sports, so I have been called UNC.
Okay, so how young are these kids that you work with?
So the youngest group is 8th grade, so 13, 14.
13, 14. And you're how old?
I'm years old. So like,
okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm 28. So like,
well,
if anything, I'm big brother. If anything,
or cousin at least,
or cousin. But I am not UNC.
Yeah, I think we do need to have an UNC definition. Like for me, I think I'm there. I'm 43. Like there's no denying.
At least 40 is UNC.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm 43, so I'm absolutely UNC. Like I even have the gray hairs in my goatee to prove it. I'm, there's no denying. I need a knee replacement. So I'm definitely UNC with a bum knee. Make no mistake about it. I also think like if you hear a song from a certain era and you instantly say without thinking, man, y'all know nothing about this.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I have done that before. I've done that before.
I mean, everybody has a boomer moment. I mean,
I'm definitely not gonna lie. I'm not gonna help my argument when I say this, but there have been plenty of times where I'll be like, "What's up, young blood?" So, I'm not helping my case when I say I'm not UNC, but I'm not UNC. Yeah, I'll be there soon, and I know my hairline kind of look like UNC right now, but like, I am not UNC. I promise I'm not yet. I'll get there soon though.
All right, give a shot. Wait. Before you say your thing, promote the t-shirts again.
Well, I was just about to do that. You got a few more minutes left, folks. Go to HBCUsports.com, fill out the form to register for the newsletter, HBCU Sports newsletter. And if you register between now and the time I decide to name the winner, get some free merch. You better do it now, okay? Because we're about to end this joint.
Nope. Ain't no come on home. Nope. Don't do that.
So go to HBCUsports.com, fill out the little box, register for the newsletter, and someone's going to rent some free merch from the HBCU Sports shop. Okay. Don't laugh, okay?
Don't say don't laugh and then
we're definitely going to laugh.
Make us laugh.
Well, I wonder, okay, my younger years, I used to, look, I didn't run track, but I used to pride myself on being a certain age and being able to run a lap in under 2 minutes on the track. I wonder if I can still do that.
We talking quarter mile?
Quarter mile.
Well, I can tell you right now, I can't do it in under 3. And I mean, we a little ways apart, so I mean, it might.
Well, this
just
was
one lap. You said one
lap, 2 minutes. Matter of fact, I might need to go ahead and it was too cold right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
But we might have to document that challenge once it warms up. Have one of my boys come out and time me to see if I can actually run a lap in under 2 minutes. You think that's doable? I used to be able to do it in my 30s.
Let's see. The world record is 42 seconds. The average high school runner gets like 54, 55 at the worst.
Right.
The high level ones. I think I've seen the seniors when they do the senior race.
Oh, wow.
The worst I've seen. And I don't mean to call you a senior, but
no, I'm not quite a senior yet.
That's what they call the race. So that's
even though I'm probably eligible for AARP, but go ahead.
Yeah, but the worst that I've seen them probably do is like a minute 50 or so. So it's realistic if you train.
2 minutes, huh?
I mean, it don't sound.
It doesn't.
I mean, I'm talking with my young brain, so I
used to like I said, I did it all the time. But look, man, about 20 years ago, I could do that, but I'm in my 50s now. Ugh.
It'll be like that Cops episode where Cliff run Tailwind Turner. And he like,
you actually remember the name? Oh my God!
Around another time, and he's not there anymore because he stopped because he got tired. Yeah, you can't document that one. I want to see that one.
That's funny.
Man, Tailwind Turner. Memories.
Okay. Are we done? All right. So we got one.
But first, Chris got to do the announcement.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so while Ken is deciding on who the winner of the free gear will be, we thank y'all for watching this edition of the Roundtable. We greatly appreciate your time as always. Be sure to follow us on all manners of social media. We are on Facebook, we are on Threads, we are on TikTok. We're still on Musty's app for the time being, but if we're also on Blue Sky as well, feel free to join us over there. Also,
it's President Musty to you.
Yeah, President Musty. But yes, if you want to donate, you can go to donate at HBCUsports.com via the Zelle app. Or you can go to hbcusports.com/donate and give us your coins where we can continue to provide you with the fine Black college sports coverage that you know and love so that Ken Rashad can continue to take his lovely wife to go see Babyface. Kendrick Marshall can support his growing family. I could buy a box Chevy, and Jared Hoffman can do whatever he wants to do with his portion of the money. So thank you guys for watching. Greatly appreciate it. And if you donate, we love you a bunch.
Okay. So in that little time, we actually had 10 people to sign up.
Nice.
And as a result, there's going to be 2 winners. 1 male and 1 female.
Hey.
All right. So ladies first.
I'm very serious. I'm very serious about that too, Michael Ford. I need an 86 Caprice. No cap.
All right. The first winner of the giveaway, merch giveaway, HBCU Sports Shop merch giveaway is, drum roll.
I can't do it for that one.
Tramika Kaliko. What is that?
It's music for the segment, man. Go ahead. Just go
turn it
ahead.
off. No, I don't. We don't need. Turn it off. We don't need any.
That threw me off. Where did it come from?
No, I'm just saying. I know you meant well, but you remember that. Look, what are you doing? Turn the music off. Turn the music off.
I thought we was going into the quiet storm.
No, I'm just saying because we'll get flagged for stuff, and I don't know where it came from. I already told you what.
It's a StreamYard creation.
I did. Well, yeah, exactly, and that's what happened with StreamYard. It still didn't work, so don't no. But we're good. All right. So Tramika Kaliko, congratulations. I will be emailing you for you to a link to go and pick your stuff, and it's on me. All right. Now for the men. Congratulations, Mr. Michael Ford.
Hey.
All right. Michael Ford, Tramika Kaliko, congratulations. Thank you so much for participating in this little giveaway. We will likely do this maybe every week, every Wednesday. I just might do it. All right. So I will be reaching out to the winners Give me a day. It'll be sometime tomorrow. Won't be tonight, okay? Because the lovely Mrs. Rashad has got dinner waiting for me right now, and she says once it goes off,
bring your behind.
Come home. So soon as I get home from work.
Another babyface joint. You gotta do a concert review like I did for Stevie Wonder that one time, man. You got
man. Oh my goodness. Look, don't get me started. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Stay warm in all this weather. We'll see you next week. God bless you.